Another day is here, and you're ready for it. What to wear? Check. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Check. Planning for what's next and how to save for it? That's where Bank of America can help. For your financial to-dos, Bank of America has experts ready to help get you closer to your goals. Get started at one of our local financial centers or 24/7 in our mobile banking app. Find a location near you at bankofamerica.com/talktous. What would you like the power to do? Mobile banking requires downloading the app and is only available for select devices. Message and data rates may apply. Bank of America N.A., member FDIC.
With threats to our nation waiting around every corner, adaptability is more important than ever. When conditions change without notice, quick strategic thinking is crucial. And with obstacles consistently impending, determination is essential in overcoming them. It's this willingness, decisiveness, and resilience that sets Marines apart. With our fighting spirit, we don't just fight battles, we win them. Marines are the constant our nation counts on to fight the unknown. And through adaptable problem solving, we do just that. Learn more at marines.com.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold! Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Transfer Committee podcast ahead of the 24-25 Premier League season here on Anfield Index. I'm Harry Sethi. On the previous episode of the series, you heard the team and I go through an array of great defensive options for the Reds this summer, working through a list of centre-backs, left-backs, and those able to do a bit of both. And on today's show, we'll be covering the attack, midfield, and backup goalkeeper options, along potentially with a look at some talented youth options as well if we get time. And as ever, I'm joined by AI's esteemed panel, Dave Hendrick back as acting chief scout, Mo Chatra as head of finance, and Dan Kennett as our overly comfortable stats guru in an air-conditioned room, I'm assuming. So as a reminder, just of our previous business and the budget we're playing with, Mo had calculated that we potentially have around £250 million to spend. And on the previous pod, after a healthy debate, we opted to go with, I opted to go with being the Richard Hughes, I suppose, Yeni Loro at the centre-back coming in from Lille for 50 million. Riccardo Calafiori as the flexible left-back who can also play as a centre-back coming in from Bologna for £30 million. And Rayan Aït-Nouri as the dedicated left-back option coming in from Wolves for 40 to 45 million pounds, I suppose. So meaning we projected to spend about 125 million and are left with potentially another 125 million in the kitty. So I'll bring everybody in. Just a reminder of those options. Mo, was I right on all that?
Near enough. What we also talked about during the last episode is that we agreed to sell Cass for $1 million. So that bumped up the overall available funds for this episode to 145 million. So total 145 million to play with for part two.
That's good news. That's a nice way to start the discussion. And we'll dive straight in, I suppose, to the defensive midfield options. And Dave, do you want to reel off some of the options that you put together on this list? I know it's a position we often talk about and debate a lot.
Yeah, it is. And it's clearly the one that, you know, when we look at the first iteration of Liverpool with, you know, these players that we're so used to, it was really the arrival of Fabinho as that holding midfielder that summer of 2018 that elevated the midfield to a new level, and combined with Alisson arriving that summer and Van Dijk having arrived in the January, that was the sort of the trio of signings that really did push us from a top 4 level team to a title winning team and a European Cup winning team. And obviously, due to pretty poor squad management over the years, Fabinho was overtaxed and started to wear down and culminated the 22-23 season. He obviously decided he wanted to go, and having hummed and had around Romeo Lavia and a couple of others, and decided we were too good to look at the South American market while we were all locked in a basement and not allowed to do our jobs. We are now back to fix the issue that is the Liverpool defence and midfield position. So I've got a list of 7 here now. 6 of them were the original list, and then the data department kindly came up with 1 as well. And I think people will agree this is a pretty strong list. So Alan Varela is the first one up, a 22-year-old Argentine, moved to Porto last summer for 10 million. Not one that probably based on last season will immediately jump off the page, but if you saw his performances against Arsenal when he took Declan Rice out of both games, if you go back and look at what he was doing with Boca Juniors in the Copa Libertadores, which is a very, very high level, he is an incredibly versatile 6. He can be your dynamic ball-winning type, or he can be that one that sits and shields and controls. I think, personally, from a profile point of view, he's the closest thing you'll find to Rodri, barring the fact that he is 6'4", while Rodri is... he's not 6'4". He is 5'10", while Rodri is, 6'3", 6'4". But, again, if you look at what he was doing in South America, he is pretty strong aerially. He's also an incredibly smart player and uses his body really well, so the lack of size and stature is not something that ever really affects him. And at 22 years of age, he's twice capped by his national team. I think he's set to become one of the best midfielders in Europe over the next decade. And it's known that Porto are open to selling. So he would be option 1. Option 2 is a player that had an outstanding game at Anfield against us, and then went on to be the man of the match in the Europa League final, absolutely dominating the Bayer Leverkusen midfield, and along with some teammates, notably Ademola Lookman, inflicting the only defeat of Bayer Leverkusen's campaign when Atalanta smashed them in the Europa League final. That's Ederson, obviously the Brazilian. And again, he's a very versatile type. He can be a roaming destroyer, a Kante type, if that's what you want him to be. But if you look at what he was doing for Salernitana, a lot more disciplined, a lot more central, a lot more sitting in that role for Salernitana. What he does at Atalanta is because of the tactical approach by Gasperini, the man-to-man, the aggression, the pressing, what he's capable of doing, whichever you want. I think he's quite underrated on the ball. Not as good as Varela, who I think could become one of the best ball-playing midfielders around, but he's not a bad player on the ball. Next up is probably the best option in terms of on-ball, which is Martin Zubimendi of Real Sociedad, 25 years of age. Been at Sociedad his entire career. Tremendous player on the ball. Absolutely outstanding. Great range of passing. I would have some concerns about him and Alexis in a double pivot because he's a little bit taller than Varela, but he's not as strong as Varela. He doesn't have that kind of stockiness that Varela does. And I'd wonder if him and Alexis might just be a little bit too lightweight and maybe just a little bit too slow to be a double pivot. But in terms of on-ball, what he gives you is absolutely sensational. Then we have Morten Hjulmand of Sporting Lisbon, won a league title with them this past season. In his first year with them, having moved from Lecce, where he'd spent 2 years, and again, a player that shows great versatility. At Lecce, that's a low possession kind of team, and he thrived in that team. And then he moved to Sporting, a high possession team, a team that plays intricate passages of play, and he fit in like he'd been there for years. At 24, soon to turn 25, I think he's approaching his prime. He's a big physical unit. He's tough. He's strong. He's very aggressive, like Ederson, and he's not as quick as Ederson, not quite as dynamic, but he does cover ground well. Another Argentine next, Santiago Heze, who plays for Olympiacos and was a vital part of their team in winning the Europa Conference League. For me, he was the man of the match in the final. Thought he had an excellent campaign for them, playing 50 games. At Huracan in Argentina, he could do a bit of everything, could play in a 2, could play in a 3, could sit, could go box to box, could be the ball winner next to a sitting playmaker. So he gives you a wide range of options in terms of what he's capable of. Then there's Manuel Ugarte, who's, I think, the best ball winner on this list, and he's a pure destroyer. He's decent on the ball as long as he plays within himself, as long as he doesn't decide that for whatever reason he is the rebirth of Xabi Alonso and try to spray the ball about. He's very safe with his possession, comfortable carrying the ball if needed, but an endless engine, a fearless tackler, tough as nails, just turned 23 in April, was at Sporting, developed brilliantly under Ruben Amorim, who's, I think, the best developmental coach in Europe, went to Sporting, went to PSG in the summer, and just his face doesn't fit for Luis Enrique for whatever reason. Enrique prefers to play Vitinha, who's not good defensively, in that 6 role, and it's one of the reasons PSG failed again in the Champions League. And the last one then is the suggestion we got from the data team, and this is Amadou Onana. Now, this is the biggest, most powerful player on the list. 6'4", dynamic ball winner. Now, for me, he would need time and patience to convert into a 6. I think he's at his best when he plays with a 6 and has that freedom to go box to box. But if you're going to play Alexis next to him, and Alexis is going to be kind of sitting in there as a playmaker, I do think the balance can work. He is like sky-high potential. He turns 23 in August. He's already got a pretty sizable chunk of games behind him, establishing himself for Belgium now. There's definitely shades of Vieira in his game, not just the size, not just the fact they're both Senegalese, but that power, that ability to pick the ball up, carry it through the lines, make the right option with the pass. He can be frustrating, he can be inconsistent, and you hear from people that know things about Everton that Dyche got quite frustrated with him this past season because at times he would shirk some of the defensive work and he would get too in love with getting in the opposition box. But when you're sending a 6'4" midfielder into the opposition box, it does cause havoc. And for a team like Everton that can't score goals, it was something that did work from, obviously represents a good threat at set pieces, and defensively is strong at set pieces as well. So I think this is quite a good list. I think it's a broad, wide-ranging list with sort of any type of player you might want included. Have I missed one? Is that 7?
I think that was all of them. Yeah.
Barella, Ederson, Zubimendi, Hjulmand, Heze, Ugarte. Yeah, that's all of them, yeah.
Absolutely. I had a couple of points just before we go to Dan, actually. Just a question. In terms of Ugarte, that you mentioned there, and him not, it not working at PSG, is there any more that we know other than he just didn't seem to be fancied by the coach?
No. I mean, the thing is, like, I watch a lot of Sporting. I was obsessed with Amorim, and he'd been my pick to replace Klopp. So I probably saw 80% of the games that this fella played for Sporting. And I follow and I'm followed by a few Sporting accounts, and you talk to them, and all you hear is how positive everybody is about him from the club. Anytime Amorim spoke on him, he was incredibly positive about him. And like, he was at Sporting when Matthias Nunes was there, and Nunes was dropped a couple of times because of this fella, because of how well he was playing. And Paulinho was there as well. And yet, at times, the manager was picking him over the more established Núñez, at times over the more established Paulinho, and talking about his attitude and his desire to improve, and how if there's a game where he, has an issue, that he's the first one to go to the coaching staff and say, look, what's gone wrong there? Why have I struggled in that game? Can you go through the tape and give me that feedback? Like, he's not waiting to be told this is where you're going wrong. And that's where I think there's been an issue with Luis Enrique, because if Ugarte is the type that wants that feedback and goes to the manager and seeks the manager out looking for feedback, Luis Enrique is known to be a pretty poor man manager and not someone that likes his players coming towards him, tries to, a bit like Benitez, the legend of Benitez, where he would be distant from his players and try and get his assistants to deal with that kind of stuff. Probably because he views that, you don't want that close relationship in case you have to drop them, in case you have to sell them or whatever. But I don't see any issue with Ugarte. Like, I think everything I've heard anyway has always been positive. And even what you hear out of the national team is that Bielsa loves him. And Bielsa's a hard man to please. So if he likes him,
yeah.
And we remember that our manager, who's arriving, well, he has arrived, but, we'll start work soon. His pressing system is built off the basis of the Bielsa pressing system. So he's clearly influenced in the same way as Bielsa. And if Bielsa likes him, Arnie would probably like him. Now, is he good enough on the ball for Arnie? That's the one question mark. I think he is if you let him keep it simple. And when you have a right back like Trent, you don't really need him to be this progressive machine, because you've got Trent and you've got Alexis, and then you've got your 4 forward players. So you do need people to do the dog work, and that's where he excels.
You can never have one too many South Americans as well, I think, in the squad, but we'll get on to that. Dan, did you want to run through just sort of how you feel these?
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Now's the time to save 30% on wedding jewelry, only on BlueNile.com. Make sure your wedding ring is the one, with your pick of diamond and lab-grown diamond bands, all hand-finished and graded for excellence. Or surprise her with something blue she'll love for life, like a stunning pair of sapphire earrings. Blue Nile's jewelry experts are available 24/7 to help, from fit questions to style advice. Right now, get up to 30% off at BlueNile.com. BlueNile.com.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
His profile?
Well, first of all, I would. The first thing that stood out was 4 South Americans in this list of 7.
Always good. Yeah. Always good.
Yes. Now, one thing I would say straight away is that all 7 have got good or very good injury records. That if you consider that the weakest injury record on this list is Onana, and he's missed 8 games in the last 2 seasons. That tells you something about these guys, right? So Varela's got no injury history at all. neither's Ugarte. Well, I've put down no football injuries. I think he had, something you could say would like a non-football type injury. Heze's got one minor knee injury. Hjulman's got two very minor injuries. So these are all really good. No concerns over any of the players on that side. From a stats profile perspective, it's pretty hard to make any kind of case for Heze at Olympiacos, especially compared to the others. There's no production at all, while some of the others have bonuses in terms of goals, especially on set plays. And his passing actually stands out as quite poor, especially his short-range passing, which it would be a concern. And he's also, statistically anyway, not so good 1v1 when opposition players go at him. So it's very hard to make any kind of case for him. But for the other six, start with Onana. So in terms of he's proven to play, even though he's only 23, he's already had 2 full seasons and 2 half seasons, so he's got enough under his belt. All the players have got enough minutes under their belt as well, so no issues there with any of the players. Obviously, the concern is that he's been playing in the Sean Dyche team rather than a
footballing team.
A footballing team, yes. But his production is excellent, which is always a bonus for centre backs. Because he is a giant. He is a physical monster. His passing is okay. It's one of the weakest on this list, along with Ederson. But I'd say there's different reasons for Ederson, to be honest. So he's probably the weakest passer overall on this. And one thing to note is, while he is defensively the best on the list in terms of 1v1 defensively, he attempts quite a few dribbles, and he's only got a 38% completion rate, which would, if you were watching him trying to dribble in centre midfield and losing 2/3 of his dribbles, I think as fans we'd be absolutely anyway, we'd be tearing our hair out. But unsurprisingly, he is easily the best player aerially in this shortlist. So he's got a real set piece threat. He's very, very physical, and he's dominant in the air and very good 1v1 when opponents go at him. So there is big strengths. I'm going to go with the other more stylistically similar ones first. So Ederson at Atalanta. So I think one of the biggest attractions here is he plays in a Gasperini system. So he's quite often defending lots of space, and he's going to be very aggressive as well. And I've managed to get some numbers from the sports science department for this one, ahead of this one, and he has got the best physical numbers in terms of his high speed distance, his top speed, and something new which they track called meters per minute, and he's doing 1117. Now this won't mean anything to you guys because he's doing 1117 high speed meters per match, but he's at 110 meters per minute. Now, just for context here, Liverpool's best midfielder is Dominic Szoboszlai. He was doing 118 meters per minute. Alexis McAllister has been up at 110, but is typically about 106. And Harvey Elliott is doing 102 because Harvey covers a lot of ground just very slowly.
And Ederson's doing what, sorry?
Ederson's doing 110.
Okay.
In a Gasperini system. So that is something which looked really attractive in terms of his intensity. In terms of his stats profile, his production's good. He's also good in the air, and he comes up with quite a few goals like Onana. His passing is moderate, but you cannot look at his passing numbers alone without looking at who he plays for, which is Gasperini, and he's not disastrous by any means, even when you consider that. But he's never going to be as neat and tidy as some of the players who play in more, should we say, less risky systems than he does. So I mean, some people might say, "Oh, his passing numbers aren't good enough." I disagree. I think there's a lot of system effects at play on those numbers. He's okay 1v1, which is good considering he has to defend wide open spaces. His dribbling and carries are okay. He's not really a carrier compared to some of the other guys on this list, and he's okay in the air. Ugarte, he is big. His big bonus is his tackles and interceptions. Even when he's playing for a possession-dominant team like PSG, he's still racking up huge numbers, volume of tackles and interceptions. So he is very dominant, and he previously played in a dominant system in Portugal for Sporting as well. So he's racking up big numbers in terms of tackles and interceptions. And if we're looking at roles in the team, Harry, which is something obviously you have to plan overall, the old buzzer cruncher spreader stuff. We've got a spreader in McAllister, we've got a spreader in Trent, we've got a spreader in Harvey. We need some other. We've got a buzzer in Dom, but we need more. We definitely have a big gap in terms of the cruncher market. Where I'm at, personally, I would be pushing the ball winning as a primacy of what we want, and the physicality side rather than the other parts of it.
Yeah, well, I think the work last summer's gone a long way to rectify that, right? I think we're not talking about our midfield of old, where having Fabinho who could spray it around as well was handy because of some of the other components, right? So
yes,
yeah, it makes sense.
So Ugart, his passing's okay, as Dave said, and he's got no issues earlier, but his one standout is tackles and interceptions. Hulman's, who's obviously Ugart's successor at Sporting, he just looks like a very safe all-round player. Nothing particularly stand out at all, and pretty solid. So, on the slightly different types of profile, Dave mentions Zubimendi. Yeah, his passing is good, but he hasn't got any standouts at all other than his passing. And Varela he's actually got better passing numbers than Zubimendi, and he's got more production than him. But he's by far the worst in the air on this list. And his 1v1 when opponents go at him looks a bit of a red flag as well. Obviously smallish samples, but that would be a concern as well. But I think Varela and Zubimendi would be different profiles in my view on the stats wise, where Onana, Edison, Ugart, and possibly Hulman would be on the other side. So
I think Varela can do both. I think if based on what we saw with him at Boca, where he was playing in a system that was a lot more expansive. Like, we have to factor in who they're playing for, and what they're being asked to do. And Sergio Conce says demand of his midfield pair is quite cautious. So defensively, what Varela does, while the others might tackle, Varela's not. There's tacklers and there's preventers, and Varela prevents defensive actions being needed by leading runners into areas where they can't hurt the team or where someone else can jump in and make the challenge. That's what he does with Porto. But if you look at what he was doing with Boca when he was averaging 4.4 tackles and interceptions per games and winning 60% of his aerials, he was a lot more of that biter type of defensive midfielder.
Right.
So what he's shown is he can do both. It's just, what do you want him to do?
Okay.
And with Porto, like, if you look at who's playing next to him, it's more of a biter, more of a I'll go and tackle, you stay behind. And one of the reasons he does get done 1v1 is because at times, Estevike, whatever his name is just leaving too much space behind. And to be fair, this has not been a good year for Porto. Conceição has been all over the map. There was talk from September about him leaving. It clearly had a very negative effect on the team. It was also Varela's first season in Europe, so you expect some sort of transition period. But I think when I look at what he was doing at Boca, and then I look at what he's capable of doing on the ball at Porto, I think the pairing would come together for us. But
do you think he can blend with McAllister?
I think he can. I think it's a natural blend. Now, the one thing I would say is the Arne Slot demands on his defensive midfielder. Like, if we look at who's been Arne Slot's defensive midfielder, and people will wonder why Mats Wiefer's not on this list. And he was on our list last year, but he was on our list as he's better than nothing. And he's better than nothing this year again. he has gotten away with playing him in that role, who is dog slow. Mats Wiefer might have the largest turning circle of any player I've ever seen. It is painful watching him try and chase somebody. He's all arms and legs. He's pulling and dragging. In a league like the Premier League, where you've got whistle-happy referees, he would get absolutely roasted. Like, he wouldn't last through most games because refs would be throwing yellow cards at him every 15 minutes.
It's good that you mentioned that, Dave, because that actually was going to be a point I brought up, is that thinking about the midfielders we currently have, who's likely to be paired with whoever comes in, in that role, or even if we're thinking about Trent and where he ends up and what he's good at, what he's not good at. Like these midfielders, in terms of how good they are on the turn, in that sort of situation where they have to be on a recovery run, we've seen a whole bunch of great options and great midfielders come into the team over the years, but not necessarily always be the greatest at that. And you don't need it necessarily. We saw Fab, be so positionally great at times and super aggressive to compensate for the fact that he wasn't the quickest on the turn. But
yeah, I got some top speeds for you as well.
Oh, that's the thing. But like we paired Fab with Ginny.
Exactly.
Like, people always talk about how great we were defensively, and they talk about Alisson, they talk about Virgil, and they talk about Fab, and they forget Ginny Wijnaldum, who was absolutely vital to us defensively, because he'd sit in next to Fab, and his athleticism, his brain, that explosive burst that he had over a short distance was so important to us. And yet you'd look at Ginny's defensive numbers and you think he didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Because he was more of the preventer type as well.
Yeah.
And that allowed Fab to cheat across to the right side, because we knew we weren't getting much out of the other fella, and help Trent or help the centre-back. And people always forget the importance of what Ginny Wijnaldum did in that team, and it pisses me off to this day. And that's where I look at, like, when I look at defensive midfielders, and I have been for 20 years looking at them and trying to, because it's a very complex position where a lot of different players can play the position, but they play in a lot of different ways. And the ones I've always loved are the preventative types, the ones that don't have the high tackle numbers, because they're not looking to make a tackle. What they're looking to do is they're looking to force a mistake, because if they try and make a tackle and they miss, then they're out of the game. Like Busquets is the best defensive midfielder of the last 20 years. Rarely left his feet, rarely made a tackle, led people into areas where others would take the ball off them. And then you had people like Jamie Carragher on Sky Sports saying, well, Busquets isn't particularly good defensively. And I'm looking at it thinking, what on earth have you been watching for the last 10 years? Where this guy is a genius who doesn't just dictate how his team plays, he dictates how the opposition plays. And he forces them to do what he wants them to do. And that's where someone like Varela, to me, shines. It's why Rodri's so good. Rodri won't blow you away like with the numbers, but you watch him play and you just see that this guy is on a completely different level. He's running both sides and he's chatting to the referee. Rodri's controlling the whole game, standing in a 10-foot square.
Is there also
great as well?
Is there not also the potential as well that some of these midfielders that we've gone through at the moment who look like those ball winners, those crunchers who are great at tackle and interceptions, like Ugarte, for example, when they're in a better system where it's complementary, perhaps they do less of that stuff than they necessarily would in another.
Well, that is the paradox with Ugarte. I mean, usually you see people who are in dominant possession-based teams, lower numbers, but he's
still generating. He's playing the teams down into the 65%. He's winning. Yeah, he's tackling 10 times a game.
He's in a 70% possession team, so he's mad.
And he's a monster. But like, he's the type that you kind of think, if he doesn't make a tackle in a couple of minutes, he might just go and tackle one of his teammates just because that's what he does. Like, I love Ugarte. Like, Ugarte is if we want a Mascherano, Ugarte is the Mascherano. Like, he's that guy. That if that's what you want, if you want the most dominant ball winner, relentless tackler, that's the guy. So, like, I adore him.
I would say that
no one on this list I'm not happy with.
Yeah, no. Varela's the shortest player on the list, 1.77 meters, obviously known as the biggest. On this, we do have some physical data, but but they're all quite similar, actually. Varela top speed 32.2, Ugart 31.7, Ederson 31.5. It's not lightning, but it's fast enough. And what I was saying before about Ederson and showing that he has got the intensity in the engine, the thing with what the sports science department said was they think that all these players playing in leagues where they've never even had to, we don't know if they can do it because they don't have to in their own league. For example, Varela is 825 high speed and 93 metres per minute. That's 20% less than Ugart. 20% less than Ederson. But he doesn't have to because he plays in a Porto team. And Ugart is slightly, he's probably at about the same level as Harvey Elliott in terms of how much ground he covers and how much, So maybe slightly quicker than Harvey.
And how tall's Ugart? It's
182, so he's 6 foot. Yeah,
6 foot bang on,
Yeah.
Varela's about 5'10", Zubimendi's 5'11".
Ederson's your height. Ederson's your height, Harry, 185.
Okay.
Yeah, he's there 6 foot, and I think Heze's about 6 foot, Yulman's 6'1", 6'2", and Onana's 6'4".
If you had to push me, I would probably on these. I would lean towards Ederson because of the pressing system, and in terms of the profile of what he's done. But I wouldn't. The only person I would say no, really, I'd probably rule out Yulman and Zubimendi, and maybe Varela. But that's that.
You'd also said Heze though.
No, Heze definitely discounted already. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the youngest player on the list as well. But you've got to weigh it from the financial as well as the scouting and the data.
Exactly.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
Sports Social Podcast Network.